What's going on, guys? It's your average consumer. And it's been a while since we talked about a new Surface device. And right here, we've got the brand new Surface Laptop Go 2, which is part of the Surface Go line. You know, that started off with what looked like a very tiny version of the Surface Pro. That's kind of evolved into this guy right here. And today we're gonna talk all about it. We're gonna talk about what you get inside the box, as well as who this is actually for. But before we get started, we gotta give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, HelloFresh. I'm sure by now most of you have heard of HelloFresh, but if you haven't, they deliver fresh, quality produce from the farm right to your door in less than a week. And they have 30 dinner recipes to choose from every week, so you'll always be able to switch it up. They've got seasonal recipes like cucumber salad, stuffed pita pockets, chicken sausage stuffed peppers, and a lot more. But the best part about HelloFresh is just not having to worry about the meal and grabbing ingredients from the supermarket. You pretty much get everything you need for your dish, you follow their recipe, which should take about 30 minutes or less, and you're pretty much set to have a great meal. So go to HelloFresh.com and use the code UAC16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. I'll of course have this all linked down below in the description, so definitely check it out. So thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video, but now let's get back to the Surface. Now, just like with any other Surface device, you get a pretty clean looking box with the device on the front. We got our hands on the new sage color, but we'll take a closer look at that once we open up the box. And inside that, you are greeted with the new laptop. We're gonna put that off to the side and see what else we get. Now, of course, you will get your hands on some paperwork, but you don't really get a lot in here. But right underneath that, you'll get that familiar Surface Connect charger. This one is 39 watts, so not a very powerful charger, but this is not a big laptop, so it makes sense. But honestly, that's about everything you get in the box. You know, these are pretty minimal. So let's move on to the laptop. But once you get the wrap off of this, if you're familiar with Surface laptops, this feels just like a smaller version. Like I mentioned before, this is the sage color. On camera, it probably looks a lot more gray than it does green, but trust me, it is green. But here it is, you guys, the Surface Laptop Go 2. Is it really fair to call, well, I guess the second iteration of the laptop version. I think this is like the 4th Go device that Microsoft has made. I think they made the Surface Go, Surface Go 2. You know what? I think they're actually on the Surface Go 3. Then they just went all in with the laptop design. Personally, I think it was a good move to move on over to like the standard laptop feel versus the tablet with add-on keyboard. Give everybody what they want in one device. I think that's the right move. Now, this is a bit of an interesting device. Microsoft made some compromises, of course, so that you can have that $599 price tag, which I don't think anybody should actually go for. You probably want to start with that $699 version. And we're going to talk about everything that you get when you pick up one of these and the compromises that you make to keep the price low. Now, first off, when it comes to build quality, this still keeps that same high quality finish and feel that Surface devices give you. This definitely doesn't feel like a low budget product, which I think is one of the biggest selling points. So we've got a 12.4 inch display over here. It's not actually full 1080p. I think it's 1536 by 1024. Am I right there? Yes, let's go. So you're not getting full 1080p, but I'll be honest, when watching content on here, didn't really feel like I was watching a low resolution screen. And that's thanks to this having a smaller display, 12.4 inches. This is Microsoft's Pixel Sense display. So you still have like a really nice looking display, very vibrant in terms of colors, it's touchscreen. My only gripe would be the fact that it doesn't get super bright. Like right now, I think we're maxed out on the brightness. It's fine when you're looking straight on, but it's not a very bright display. Honestly, with how bright it is, I don't imagine it being much of an issue unless you're outdoors going directly against the sun. But other than that, you should be pretty happy with it. But one thing that's also nice is that it has pretty solid speakers. We threw this thing up to max volume in here and we were really surprised at the quality and how loud it gets. And it's actually pretty interesting because it's not like you'll see a speaker grill on this anywhere. The speakers are actually right under the keyboard and it sounds really, really good considering the overall size. Now, in terms of the port selection, you got all your ports right here. You get a USB-A, USB Type-C, and a headphone jack. And on the other side, you'll get your Surface Connect port so you can of course charge it or use the Surface Connect dock. And that's about it. I mean, you're not gonna get a ton of I/O on a device this small, but it is cool that you get a little bit of both. You get the USB type A and C, so you won't really need to use any adapters to plug something in here. Now we talked a little bit about the price point earlier, so let's get into that and the specs, right? So that base model is going to get you an Intel Core i5 processor with 4 gigs of RAM, as well as 128 gigs of storage. Now, 4 gigs of RAM, that ain't it in 2022, you guys.
Chrome is fighting.
Yeah, Chrome will kill this thing with 4 gigs. So I would advise, if you're looking at this, just completely stay away from that model. But I am glad that we aren't seeing the i3 that we used to see on those base models. That's gone, so very happy for that. Now, when you go up $100, you're gonna be getting 8 gigs of RAM, as well as a fingerprint scanner built into the power button, which I absolutely like. The fingerprint scanner, I gotta say, so far from my experience with it, it can be pretty hit or miss. Like sometimes it'll get you in quick, sometimes you gotta lift your finger and press it down again. But for the most part, it is nice that it's there. I like the keyboard, the typing experience is very nice. I believe that they had some issues with the previous trackpad in the first iteration of this. This one is improved, this one feels really good. So if we're completely ignoring the base model, I think that's a pretty good place to start. 8 gigs of RAM, fingerprint scanner, as well as 128 gigs, i5, I think that's a decent entry point. And if you wanna add another 128 gigs, you can look at the $799 model. I was just telling the guys earlier, this device reminds me a lot of Apple's MacBook. I don't know how many of you guys remember it, but the 12-inch model, which didn't have much going for it aside from that really small form factor. Now, I like the fact that they didn't go the Apple route with this, where that 12-inch MacBook was like, I think, $1,200. This one's starting at $699. I said $699. This one starts at $599. Just because it's like small, thin, has a really nice form factor, doesn't make it special. Treat it like an entry-level device, and I think a lot more people will gravitate towards that. And picking this up for someone doesn't feel like, hey, I just got you this cheap laptop from Walmart. I feel like the overall user experience from a hardware perspective definitely delivers. You're not gonna be able to do any hardcore gaming. We got by with a few games, nothing super crazy, but this thing doesn't have a dedicated graphics card. It's got the Intel Iris X graphics. We were able to play some 2D games with no problem, but definitely wouldn't try to do anything crazy on this. Like we couldn't even get PUBG to load, right? It wasn't happening. You can use a stylus with this. It doesn't come with one, but if you wanted to get a stylus, you can absolutely use it. That's the nice thing about having that Pixel Sense display. If you want to go all into the Surface world and you want to go ahead and add something like that, you definitely can. So who is this for, right? I feel like this would be a really great laptop for students. I know that's who Microsoft was initially targeting with their Go line. Just a really affordable Surface device. I feel like it's great for students or someone who's just looking to have a quality laptop that can just do the regular everyday tasks. I feel like this absolutely does that.
That's good for my father.
I would absolutely buy it for my dad. You're right, Jay. This is great for Father's Day too if your dad's not this crazy techie who needs the best specs in the world. Absolutely a great gift. For me, I feel like a lot of laptops in this price range, you don't really get this kind of hardware. So it feels pretty easy to recommend if you're looking to get something that feels really good, does solid performance, and doesn't break the bank. That's the Surface Laptop Go 2. But let me know what you guys think with a comment down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, be the cool guy or girl that gives it a thumbs up. And catch you guys in the next one. Till then, it's your average consumer. Peace. How green are we looking, you guys? Gray. Gray? Dang.
Pull it against gray. Yeah, vice versa.
I don't know, you guys. That's looking pretty gray to me. But it is green. A little bit.